So I put out a community post on my YouTube channel telling my viewers, do you want me to make a controversial video openly giving my thoughts on Wuwa and the Wuwa community, or do you want me to just be a chill capybara? Now within the first half hour, if not less, it was very easily, chill winning instead of war. So I thought I'd guaranteed not have to make a video. However, I checked back in a little bit later and already it had gotten close. So I'm pre-making this video and it might not even be uploaded if it doesn't go to war and chill wins, right? So this video is going to be talking about my, bit of frustration with the way the Wuwa community will handle critique with the Hoyo games, right? In which they will nitpick the worst parts of every single Hoyo game and then put them up against the best parts about Wuwa, right? However, the truth is, even Wuwa has its flaws, and some of them are worse than any of the other Hoyo games combined, right? So what is it that I'm specifically speaking about? Today, I want to cover a few things wrong with Wuwa that people for some reason like to conveniently leave out when criticizing other games for their predatory practices, but not Wuwa, right? Let's start off with something a little soft, right? The poll count. The poll count has only been continuously decreasing compared to version 1, right? Renacida gave us, I believe, near 150 free-to-play polls when it dropped. Renacida is when they finally decided to start making major patches, right? And they said themselves, every 6 months from now, we will be doing a major patch, and that is something like Renacida. So the next major patch after Renacida was Septimont, and Septimont got like 25 less polls compared to Renacita. Alongside this, the anniversary only gave around 10 more polls than an average patch, which is only continuing to make it worse and worse, right? And now, for those who aren't aware, this current Wuwa patch is the lowest poll count Wuwa has had in the history of the game. The second worst was 1.2 with 83 polls. Bookkeeping shows that the current Wuwa patch has 75 free-to-play polls, and this is including the limited weapon polls that you get in a patch, meaning you get less than 70 limited character banner polls in this patch, right? So that's starting off with something soft. The next thing is the signature weapons. I haven't made a video on it. However, Prolova's signature broke the record in Wuwa for a jump by 40% over the standard 5-star option. And keep in mind, most people in Wuwa do not have all of the standard 5 stars. EOG or Static Mist, it's understandable to use that as a baseline, but any other standard 5-star is very iffy, right? And most people do not have all standard 5 stars, unlike in HSR, where it's usually compared to free-to-play 4-star Lycones, and it's the same for W engines and weapons in Genshin, right? So if you were to compare to 4-star options, Prolova's signature is actually more like a 60% increase, which is completely unseen in any of the Hoyo games, right? Now, what about something else alongside this? Well, alongside this, the poll count that has been decreasing gradually, right? The signature weapons that have been becoming more and more predatory. You now also have niche teams. By this I mean, it feels like every new DPS comes in a package with a best in slot support specifically made to be best in slot for them. And I don't have an issue with best in slot supports like you guys may think I do. I have an issue with best in slot supports that aren't general. Coming from HSR, even though the power creep and HP inflation in that game is 100% an issue to take note of, compared to Wuwa, their support value is fucking leagues above what anything Wuwa has to offer except for SK. In HSR, I think the best way I can put it is we have multiple SKs, lots of supports that can be best in slot or amazing second best in slot options for a fuck ton of teams, right? But in Wuwa, we have a bunch of Ceridras, supports only meant to be made to be best in slot for 1 or 2 DPSs, and the second a new DPS drops, that new DPS is going to be best in slot with a new support. And this just keeps going and going and going, and it's not as if the gaps are only like small, right? Like 5-10% upgrade like Ceridra is. Ceridra for Inoxa is only like 10% better than Robin, and Robin is a version 2 support, right? In this game, they are making a lot of these best in slot supports to the point where they're like 20, sometimes 30% plus better than any other options that the game has to offer, right? On top of this, right, there's also the 4-star issue that Wu was copying from HSR. Bu Ling was originally supposed to release in 2.5, but Kuro moved her to 2.8, which means Wuwa will go an entire year without a single new 4-star, right? I just mentioned massive issues that Wuwa has that most people for some reason love to leave out whenever critiquing the other Hoyo games. This game has flaws, and having flaws doesn't make a game automatically trash. I personally think that Wuwa is still objectively the greatest gacha game of the mainstream ones compared to Hoyo, right? Maybe, you know, I'm going off my rocker saying objectively. Maybe I should say subjectively, right? Some of you may disagree with me, but I truly think if you put like 100 random ass people and you made them look at all the Hoyo games and play all of them, I feel like the majority would pick Wuwa, right? But this isn't to pit the games against each other. This is to call out the community for its hypocrisy and not giving Wuwa the same level of criticism for its very noticeable flaws, while with Hoyo games, they treat Hoyo games as if they're the spawn of Satan, and they treat Wuwa as if it's the messiah of gacha, when this simply is not the case. Now that Wuwa has built up a much more dedicated fan base, they feel a lot more free to openly be more predatory, since a lot of people will now simply have sunk cost. And this isn't anything new. This is why Hoyo treats ZZZ so much better than the likes of Genshin or HSR. It's because of this reason. They want ZZZ to at some point grow, maybe get a growth spurt at some point, become at the same level as HSR or Genshin, and when that happens, that's when the sunk cost will start sinking in. You've amassed a large popularity, and you're now going to be more openly predatory with new supports, new DPSs, all that stuff, right? Another thing, I don't remember if I forgot to mention it or not, but we are getting 3 Team ToA content in Wuwa upcoming in 2.6. It's been leaked with the recent batch of 2.6 leaks alongside Augusta and Yuno leaks that they will add 2 floors to the Hazard Tower, and they will still consume 5 stamina. So before, when you only needed 2 good teams, 1 to clear the 4th floors of each side tower and 1 to clear Hazard, you now need 3. You need 2 for Hazard and 1 for the side towers, right? So already, only a year and a half, not even into the game, they're already pushing 3 team endgame content. I mean, I just I can't, man, right? Now, Do I personally care about all this all that much? Does this fucking make or break Wuwa for me? Not in the slightest. My main attraction to Wuwa will always be the open world, the graphics, the fluidity of the animation, the QOL they offer. They are ahead of the space, at least compared to Hoyoverse as of current. I will not deny that. But people need to be more fair when comparing to the Hoyo games instead of acting like Wuwa never has these issues, right? Wuwa has so much fucking flaws and issues like I just mentioned, and no one really talks about this because most Wuwa creators are too scared. A lot of Wuwa content creation that I see these days, the most popular types of Wuwa content creation, is built off of straight up tribalism. Right? They want to build tribalism for the main game they cover because then they can farm the fuck out of views and likes and comments whenever they compare it to another game while being unfair in the comparison, giving Wuwa its flowers while completely shitting on every Hoyo game without looking at its positives, right? Like, for example, yes, Wuwa has 3 character content, right? But HSR basically gave you an entire team that can clear endgame content for free. You have Archer, who is free. He is currently the strongest single target DPS in the entirety of the game with some of the best and lowest cost zero cycles possible, right? Ting Yun and RMC, he can zero cycle with those 2 free-to-play supports. We also got Ruan Mei from the Golden Token, and in 3.6, we are getting Physical Preservation, Don Hung, who will be a sustain, right? So you get a sustain, one of the most general harmonies in the entirety of the game, who still sees use to this day, and one of the strongest DPSs this game has to offer, all for free, right? So you can make the argument of, oh, but Wuwa has 3 characters, HSR has 4, but you can make up an entire team to clear all endgame in HSR with the free limiteds that they've been giving us, right? And this is not to excuse the flaws HSR has. Oh boy, I can name a lot, right? That fucking 75-25 weapon banner pisses me off to no fucking end. The way they incentivize Eidolon and Lycone investment at times can be very fucking predatory. The fact that this new upcoming endgame mode supposedly may be like a Stygian onslaught, I don't care about it too much, but I do still think of it negatively, right? HSR has a lot of flaws, whether it be the storytelling, the fact that they didn't have a skip button for so long until now, right? The relic system, I still have many issues with, the same way I have issues with ecosystem in Wuwa. Every single one of Hoyo's games has flaws. I'll call them out on it. I criticize HSR all the fucking time. That Archer Lycone shit pissed me off a lot, right? And I still stand by that. But I am quite sick of the toxic positivity that the Wuwa community has for their own game. And it wasn't like this at the beginning of the game. People were nowhere near this toxic positive about it, right? I genuinely think the reason why people are so toxically positive these days is because of CC's instigating, right, like gacha war between communities so they can keep making money and farming the fuck out of it, right? Once again, this goes back to what I said earlier. Some content creators want to build up a community based off of tribalism because that leads to free ass views whenever they shit on another game that isn't their main game, right? I'm seeing official Wuwa guide makers whenever they make a video stating the massive difference there is between best in slot support or signature weapons. Everybody in the comments is always deflecting this and being like, oh, you have an agenda to spread. Oh, I don't think they're this bad actually. Oh, I can still clear with this. Right? And you can use this exact same argument for HSR. People are still clearing with like 5 to 6 costs for a Firefly, zero cycling MOC, right? Not just clearing, zero cycling. I would like you guys to keep in mind, zero cycling in HSR is the equivalent of like what's it called? It's like the equivalent of clearing in 20 to 30 seconds in Wuwa. That is the equivalent of zero cycling in HSR, right? You can even make Yang Qing zero cycle with the right supports. You can't do that shit in Wuwa. At the end of the day, it's Honkai support rail for a reason, right? So all of this is to say, I'm just tired of the unfair comparisons and the fact that somehow this community hasn't woken up yet. Now, I have seen people waking up after the Prolova situation and how many best-in-slot supports they've been releasing for specific DPSs lately, but still, the majority haven't woken up. They're still trying to push Gacha War. They're still trying to constantly compare this game to Hoyo games to make themselves feel better. The reality is, if Hoyo content creators really wanted to fight back against it, but most of us and most people just don't care enough, there would be a lot of things to nitpick about Wuwa very easily, right? But most of us don't, because at the end of the day, you should only really talk about a game that you yourself play and enjoy. Even though I openly criticize HSR all the time and I shit on it, many of you can clearly tell HSR is currently my favorite gacha game to play. It is convenient. I can auto everything. It has some of my favorite character designs. Even with all the issues it has and how predatory it is, I openly like the game because that's simply how it is. I'm not going to pretend I don't like the game just because of all its objective faults. I subjectively love the game. And it's no different for Wuwa, although I don't like Wuwa as much as HSR, but that's solely because Wuwa is an open world game, and I'm simply phasing out of open world games as I grow older, and I value convenience more and more, right? Something like HSR simply is more valuable towards saving my time. However, it doesn't change the love I have for Wuwa, especially since Wuwa was the game I started this channel off of with, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Once again, this isn't really supposed to be to put communities at war or to be like Wuwa bad, Hoyo good. This video is supposed to be all of these gachas are predatory, all of them are bad, all of them have different ways of being predatory, and I don't understand why, you know, this Wuwa community mostly, right, at least on the social media side of things, is so nitpicky when making comparisons between these games and so desperate for that game they love so much to be something it's not, right, to be way better than it actually is. I truly just am left confused, considering so many people treat Genshin as like this X that they only see the flaws of and complain about all the time, and then they're in this honeymoon phase with their new partner where even if they see the flaws, they act like they're still perfect, they ignore the flaws, you know, they want to make themselves and their partner feel better. That's how the Wuwa community on the social media side of things feels as of current, right? So once again, don't even know if I'll upload this video because I'll check the poll results after this, right? Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.